Welcome to another episode of Real People, Real Stories, where we provide you with compelling tales from everyday people just like you. I'm your host, John Wendell Adams, author of the novels Betrayal and PayBack, along with the soon-to-be-released novel, Ruthless. You can always find me by going to john@johnwendelladams.com. So for the next 23 minutes, let's get to today's guest.
That whatever you do, you give it your best. From that, you will build confidence. You will be a different person from the time you start to the time you finish.
Hey, Michele.
Hello, John. How are you?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm great as well.
Great as well. Okay. Well, you know what? I've been looking forward to you coming and being a guest on our show. I really have. I've been looking forward to this time, us just hanging out. You know what I mean?
I really do. And I want to thank you for inviting me.
No problem. Just had to get those schedules aligned. And shoot, you got a compelling story. And I think our folks want to hear about it.
No, I'm looking forward to this experience.
Yeah. So do me a favor, if you would, please. I know who you are, but if you could tell our audience just your name, what part of the country you live in, and what you do.
Happy to do it. My name is Michele Halliburton. I live in Country Club Hills, Illinois, which is a south suburban community of the Chicagoland area. And I am a sales director with Mary Kay Cosmetics.
All right. Mary Kay. Wow. A lot to be said about that. Hey, you know what I want to do, though, is I want to start with your compelling story. And it is compelling. And I guess first I want to ask you about sort of where you grew up and what that was like for you. I know you had some educational challenges. I want to hear about that and start there, if you would.
Well, I am a native Chicagoan. I grew up in Chicago and mainly on the south side of Chicago. And growing up was in a little small western suburb. But yeah, I'm a native Chicagoan and I am the youngest of four. And growing up, I describe myself as just an average student, average person, very quiet, shy, and introverted. There was not a lot that I had to say, and I was, however, very observant. But what I know from my own experience is that shy, introverted people have a tendency to not be ambitious, not have ambitions or goals or thoughts of, accomplishing things. And I was that person. I had that experience pretty much growing up as a child and all the way through my young adulthood.
Yeah, I think there's a lot to be said about that. You wouldn't be the only person that would fit into that category. But you had some later educational successes. Describe those to me, just so we can put that in perspective.
Not by my own guidance and direction. It was because of someone actually seeing talents, skills, and abilities in me that I couldn't see in myself. I was able to be mentored and encouraged to go through my elementary school education, high school education, and then on to college. And because of that encouragement, because of that insight that was viewed as this person I'll talk about in a little while, saw some things in me that I couldn't see in myself. And as a result of that, I was able to go to not just an undergrad degree, but to continue on and get a master's degree.
Well, that's impressive. And so you alluded to someone who had an impact on you and your life and the things that you were in your former self and then became. Talk about that, if you would, please, in terms of what really happened, who impacted you, what transpired, and what that really meant to you.
That person was my mom.
Okay.
And yes, as a matter of fact, my siblings and I were raised by a single mom. And one of the things that just was powerful was we all know that everybody is different, even twins, they may be identical twins, but they have unique and distinct personalities. and differences. And so
Right.
our mom saw among the four of us how uniquely different each and every one of us was. And I must say that my sisters, I have two sisters, my sisters, they were brilliant. They were extremely smart and extremely intelligent. They were bright in school. They got straight A's and doubles, the kind of things that really don't even exist today in our educational system. But that actually, I believe, intimidated me to some degree because
Mm.
I never felt I could measure up. And as a consequence, my mom, our mom, saw that, she believed that every single person has a talent, a gift, and a skill. And so she would look at me as the individual that I was and identified some things about me I didn't even know. And as a
Right.
result of that, yes, as a result of that, she just helped me to see those, helped me to discover those. And then that is, kind of the method she used to help me to move from where I was to who I eventually evolved into.
Thank you for that, first of all. But there are lots of people who tell those stories about transformation and the people who were involved in that. But I guess what I would ask you is, what changed for you, right? What things did she do to invoke that change in you? I mean, how did that transpire?
I probably had one thing that I knew I could do. I always loved to sing. And so one of the things that she did was she paid for me to get singing lessons when I was an adolescent. That I think helped to distinguish me from my siblings. And then at every level of my educational experience, she would encourage me to like join a particular club in grammar school, in high school, for example, like a language club. I loved French. And so I took French in high school, and no one else in my family took French. And although I struggled with it, it was something that I enjoyed. And so she encouraged me to, you know, dig into it. And that was really her philosophy. Philosophy was that whatever you do, you give it your best. And from that, you will build confidence and you will be a different person from the time you start to the time you finish. And in our family, actually, higher education was not even an option. So I knew I'd be college bound, just like my other siblings. And that is pretty much what my mom encouraged us all to do. However, one of the things that was unique about me is that I was the only one among my siblings that actually went away to college for undergrad school. And so with that, I think it gave me a sense of my mom's trust in me. I do believe I was a trustworthy child. And to know that she actually trusted me enough to go to another state to attend a college or university. It was that experience, I believe, that was the beginning of an evolution for me and a transformation for me.
She really is to be thanked for having the confidence in you to really go and excel, even though that was the place that you graduated from. And it's interesting to me, the last of four, you were the only one to go off to college, to another state, another place, in terms of beginning your college education. There is some segue from going to college to then entering into the business world. And you did that. And shoot, from what you described to me, very successful. And so help me to understand what that transition was like for you and whether or not she had any involvement in it.
I'm so glad you asked that question because I'm going to take you back to my last year in high school. My mom was a woman who was always encouraging her children to do the exceptional, to do the and then some. It was actually at the beginning of the high school term, and I was in a graduating class of over 1,000 students. And IBM Corporation was looking for one student to be an intern. And my counselor selected me. Now, keep in mind, I was a quiet, shy, introverted person, but because she saw something in me, as I mentioned, my mom saw some talents and skills and abilities. One thing she did know is that although I describe myself as an average student, but I was a consistent student. Our mom raised us to be well-mannered, and so she chose me, and I was so impressed with that. Of course, she spoke with my mom first, and my mom supported that because she believed in all of her children. It was really the end of my junior year because it was during the summer. I did a summer internship at IBM Corporation that ended at the end of that summer period. But as a result of that experience, I actually had an opportunity when I graduated from high school. The manager that had interviewed me and had spoken with me and appreciated the quality of work that I had given them, he then reached out to me outside of the school because I had graduated at that point. So it was probably just before graduation, and offered me another internship for that summer. Of course, I accepted it. And at the end of that internship, that branch manager said to me, if ever you need a job, you come and ask for me because you were an excellent, stellar employee.
Wow, that's impressive. So something that your mother did must have rubbed off on you and then rubbed off on them. I mean, they could actually see what she was really trying to build into you. That's amazing.
Just what she was trying to build into me, what she successfully built into me, standards, values, principles.
Yes.
And yes, and that branch manager and the employees that were there were impressed that a teenager would have been that, conscientious, hardworking, and dependable and reliable.
Well,
And
that's great.
and that vaulted. So kind of fast forward now back to the question you asked. When I got my undergrad degree and I was working at a hospital it was called a unit secretary. And it was just a position I wasn't really happy with. And my mom, here she, emerged again, and she said, Michele, why don't you call that branch manager that told you if ever you were looking for a job
Wow.
that, yes, that I would be willing to interview you. I remember saying to my mom, that man didn't mean that. He was just talking. He was being polite, right? He was just being nice to a teenager. And she said, business people don't just say something because they're trying to be nice. They could say something nice, but it wouldn't necessarily translate into a job offer. Call him.
Right.
I did. Yes, I did. And I remember saying to him, I don't know if you remember me, but this is Michele Halliburton, and I was an intern. He said, absolutely. I'm telling you, for a shy, introverted person, that was so impactful. I was just blown away. And sure enough, he said, I meant that. And so when are you available to come in for an interview?
Wow. Wow. So advance the screen, you got the job. Is that a yes?
I did get employed by IBM Corporation and made several advancements through the career path.
All right. So was that in a particular functional area within the company?
Yes, he was actually interested in hiring me as a tech, as a service tech, to be specific, servicing equipment, and I was definitely, that was way out of my league. And so since I had, no confidence again in doing something that my skill set wasn't there, then he arranged for me to interview with the office. It was really more an administrative position. And the office manager, I guess you would call them. And that is the person that interviewed me and ultimately hired me.
Okay, so you start with an internship, you get another one, you take a job that you really weren't interested in. You were encouraged by your mother to call this guy, you did. What he was offering is not something you wanted. And then he thought enough of you to refer you to someone else who then hired you and in administration. What's interesting about that tale is that from what I have come to know about you, that's not what your success in IBM was really all about. Am I right?
Correct. As a matter of fact, so I started out as kind of a bit of a Horatio Alger story because I started out as a receptionist.
Oh,
And yes, I started out as a receptionist and
okay.
then eventually through, again, encouragement from my mom and encouragement from people management that saw the qualities and characteristics that I exuded. I then got promoted into the sales part of IBM. Again, a fish out of water that was not my lane, not my area of comfort, but through encouragement from others, starting with my mom. That process required interviewing as well. It was not like a slam dunk. Just
Right.
because you work for the corporation, I had to go through a tough screening and interviewing process. And I was fortunate enough to have a mentor who just walked me through, someone who had been in sales for an extended period of time and mentored me through the process. That was another aha moment for me because I was blown away when I got hired as a sales rep. They had over 400 applicants and they were only looking for 4 people.
Wow.
Yes,
Four
yes.
out of 400. So you're going to tell me that you were one of those people, the 4 people
I,
that they hired?
yes, I was one of those 4. I was the only one who was internal. The others were all external, but it didn't matter because the fact that I worked for the company, I had come out of an administrative position. And so they had no history and no evidence that I would be great in
Right.
sales.
Just stop there for a minute because the reality is you were hired, one of those 4 people. You
Yes.
did exceptionally well within the context of IBM. And so now here you are, a sales revenue generating person for one of the largest corporations in the world. And somehow someone comes to you and says, "Hey, I've been watching you. People tell me you're impressive in terms of the things that you do. I would ask you to mentor me." You remember that?
I do. I remember that. I remember that so clearly because I never considered myself as a mentor. I very gracefully and graciously declined because of 2 reasons. One, I didn't see myself in that capacity.
Got it.
And secondly, because, I did have a busy schedule. And I think I probably used that as an excuse because I didn't have confidence.
The old busy schedule comment.
You got it. You
Yeah.
got it.
So
You got
something
it.
happened. Yeah, something happened to cause you to change your mind. So what was that all about?
I saw that eagerness in the eyes of an intern. That's who this person was. She was an intern, and after that conversation, in the course of a couple months, I said to myself, well, you know what? Someone saw some talents and skills and abilities in me, and someone was thoughtful enough to mentor me. And so I started thinking about that word mentorship and realize that all mentoring really is it's identifying talents, skills, abilities in others, and then helping them. Maybe they can't see it for themselves, but helping them to discover them and then talking and stepping them through how they can see that for themselves and then use that as stepping stones for transformation
Got it.
so that they can take themselves from where they are at that moment to where they either desire to be or where they deserve to be.
I have to tell you, I like that. You told me that before. You shared that with me before, that mentorship is an opportunity for the person being mentored that it becomes a stepping stone in terms of their transformation. I thought that was brilliant. I like that. Whatever happened to that person that you mentored?
I don't necessarily know where that person ended up because, as I said, that was a mentorship from a college student. And back in the day, we never got an opportunity to go full circle and and necessarily stay in connection with that person. So that happened in that case. But I have mentored other people along the way. And
Got
this
it.
is what, yeah, one that comes to mind is someone, and John, I must tell you that this person mirrors the kind of personality that I had. And I think that's probably why I was eager to mentor that person. She was such an introvert. She wanted to know, what is the definition of leadership? I think leadership and mentorship, they have some similar traits and characteristics. And so after I described that to her, defined that for her, she asked me if I would mentor her. And I said, absolutely. And so I took this person, much like I was taken, from that shy, introverted, and uncertain, smart. She was extremely smart, extremely bright and intelligent, but helped her to see that the true strength that she wanted to acquire, she already had. And through, again, that process of what I call self-discovery, she then went from being that shy, introverted person to actually being in a position where she had, built a team. She was in qualification for a career car, and was absolutely blown away with the progress that she could see. It was tangible progress that she never thought she had the ability to achieve.
Wow, wow, that's a great story. My only question is, did she decide to give you a ride in her new car that she acquired?
No, right?
Well, in all seriousness, that's a great story. So you take another person who is shy and retiring and really doesn't have that self-confidence for herself. And there were two things, I guess, that I really got from that. One is her condition, but the other one is you obviously, somewhere along the way, made a mental, emotional shift from I don't really have time and no, can't do that, to absolutely, I'm willing to invest in you. And that must have been a real transformation for you.
It really was. Now in this corridor of time, I believe we all have a responsibility to reach back and pull forward as many people as we possibly can. Because I say, many times I shudder to even visualize who I would be and where I would be and what I would be doing if I hadn't had someone breathing and pouring into me.
Yes.
And yes, committed to helping me to be the person that I have evolved into. And so when you do that, everything that we do in life, John, I believe, shouldn't have a dollar figure attached to it. And when you have the ability, the privilege, the honor to mentor someone, I call those paychecks of the heart.
Paychecks of the heart. You
Yeah.
said that to me before, and I wrote that down. You're saying this is something that money can't buy, right?
Correct. Yes.
Mhm. Yes.
You can't put a dollar figure on that. And the person, couldn't pay you enough for that leap that they have made from where they were to where they're aspiring to be. And now they're on the road because they now realize that transformation, growth, development, it's a journey. It's not a destination.
Right. Well, here's the thing. I guess in hearing your story, and I'm going to ask you this question in a minute, is if you had an opportunity to speak to one person or 100 people about this whole thing associated with the paycheck, the hard mentoring individuals, anything that you think would be relevant and meaningful to them, what that would be. But the one thing I guess I wanted to share with you is I've heard this said before, and I've used it lots of times, that life is lived in thirds, right? So there's that first third where you're really trying to learn and grow and really find your place, if you will. And then the second third is really about acquisition of wealth and power and position and title and jobs, etc. And then the last third is really about what you said, sort of those paychecks of the heart. And it just seems like to me that, whatever you want to say, that or paying it forward, really finding individuals that you can invest in or people that you can be generous to, et cetera. But I guess what I would ask you from your own perspective and your own background and your own experience, if you had an opportunity to kind of share some thoughts, words of wisdom, significant comments about your story and what others can really take from that, what do you think that would be?
First of all, to make a declaration to yourself and recognize, I said this a little earlier, that everyone has a talent, a skill, or a gift.
Yes.
And so with that having been said, it just behooves us all through our journey in life to try to find a mentor, to seek out a mentor at every stage and every age of our lives, right? And then to be open and receptive to mentorship, to being coached through a process. And then lastly, what I would suggest is to never quit and never give up. Just remember that there is light at the end of every tunnel. It might just be a glimmer, but even with a glimmer, that light can get brighter, bigger, and better.
Oh, I like that. The 3 Bs. Well, you know what? I want to thank you for coming on the show and really sharing your compelling story and how you've had an impact on others and how others, frankly, have had an impact on you. So I really appreciate you sharing those thoughts, those words, and those nuggets of information for the benefit of our listening audience.
I want to thank you very much for giving me an opportunity to share. Yeah. I am always open and receptive to, again, is giving back and paying forward.
Yeah, I agree. And what we're going to do probably, to tell you, Michele, we're going to invite you to come back and tell some other tales, compelling stories, aspects of what it is that you even shared today. So would you agree to coming back and being a part of our show?
John, I'd love it.
All right. Okay. Yeah. Well,
happy to do it.
All right. Well, listen, wish you the best in this upcoming new year, and I can't wait to see and talk to you again.
Well, thank you so much, and have a blessed and awesome new year as well.
All right. You too. Talk with you soon.
Okay, great.
All right. Bye now.
Bye.
You can always find me by going to john@johnwendelladams.com.